following video is brought to you by the Boston Sports Entertainment Network. Please consider liking and subscribing for more Boston sports content.
The red, white, and blue. I can't lose with the red, white, and blue. My whole crew is the red, white, and blue. I represent the stars and stripes. I am a patriot, a true American. I am a champion, yes, and that's on everything. I will protect my home. I will defend, fighting tooth and nail to the bitter end. I don't play to lose, nah, I play to win. Rain, sleet, or snow in the wingland. What? Touchdown, it's a TD, 2 hands up, yep, field goal.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Pats Nation Nightly. My name is Zach, joined as always by Ben, and we have a little bit of a special guest. It's Steelers week here in New England, so of course we had to get somebody who knows the ins and the outs of the Steelers. Nick, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself real quick?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. I'm Nick Farabough. I'm the Steelers beat writer for PennLive.com. So I appreciate you guys having me on to talk some Steelers.
Absolutely.
So this is week 3 coming up. Both teams are 1-1, and the Patriots are very familiar with the Steelers quarterback, of course, Aaron Rodgers. But before we kind of dive into this week 3 matchup, can you take us back to week 2 and kind of in the insider perspective, what the Steelers looked like, I guess, against the Seahawks, but also in week 1 against the Jets?
Yeah, I mean, not too dissimilar games, to be quite honest with you. The Steelers were lucky to get out of week 1 with a win. They probably were a little bit unlucky to lose. There were some things that went against them last week. For example, them gaffing an entire kickoff rule. I mean, giving the Seahawks a free touchdown. The Steelers were in control of that game for 2.5, 3 quarters, and it just kind of got away from them in the fourth quarter. And most of those were largely self-inflicted. But let's kind of just go through overall. First of all, the run defense has been very bad. I think that's been the big thing for the Steelers. Week 1, the Jets' offensive line and Breece Hall just gashed them. Last week was better. They were better down to down, but Kenneth Walker had 5 rushes of 15 or more yards. And it was just kind of the explosive runs that killed them last week. But they had a lot of 0-yard, 1-yard, some even TFLs last week. So we'll see where that run defense goes. It moved in the right direction, but still wasn't fully there. They're still kind of figuring out the right personnel up front. They're banged up defensively. In the pass defense, miscommunications are becoming a big issue too. Really new secondary. They were breaking that in, and then they got hit with 2 injuries in Deshaun Elliott and Joey Porter Jr., and it has kind of disrupted that. Jabril Peppers is now a thing in that secondary too, and they're figuring that out. And so there's just a lot of moving parts. And so the defense is a talented group, better than their numbers are in terms of talent, but they have not performed to that, largely due to self-inflicted wounds, miscommunication, alignment issues, missed tackles in the secondary, things like that, that feels like they can improve upon. Offensively, it's been kind of interesting. I wasn't really sure what the formula was going to be for them. They've been able to move the football really through quick game and yards after catch. I mean, that's kind of what they have done. They're the only team in the NFL right now with 300 or more yards after the catch. So if you can't tackle them in the open field, they will get explosive plays. That was the issue with the Jets is Metcalf got loose a few times. Warren got loose a few times. Jonnu got loose. Calvin Austin got loose. And it was just kind of a real big issue for the Jets was they couldn't handle that. Then they couldn't handle the Steelers' play-action game. So Rodgers has kind of assimilated a little bit into the Arthur Smith kind of offense, right? The early down stuff is very Arthur Smith, under center, bootleg, play action. And the late down stuff, the gun, the empty, you'll see all the Rodgers staples. You'll see all the slants and different things like that. They've been focusing very heavily on the screen game, the quick game, trying to get these guys in space, utilizing the running backs. They've used the most 12 personnel in the entire NFL. They're over 50%. So they're in 2 tight ends a heck of a lot. Jonnu Smith, Pat Freiermuth, and Darnell Washington being those 3 guys that they kind of utilize there. And the running game for the Steelers offense has not been great to start. Last week, though, kind of just like the rushing offense, they started to get going a little bit. More success down to down, but they didn't pop an explosive one. So they only had 3.4 yards per carry, but they were good in the short yard situations and were kind of able to utilize their running game as a good conduit there. So we'll see. They're kind of a weird developing team. They're kind of in disarray. They're hurting themselves a lot. And it's kind of a very odd team right now that is trying to figure out its parts.
Yeah, a lot to break down there. But I want to go back to one of the first things you talked about with that Steelers run defense. One huge thing that I noticed, a big discrepancy when Kenneth Walker was on the field. He got 13 carries, 105 yards, averaged more than 8 yards per carry. When it was Zach Charbonnet, he got more carries than Walker. He got 15 and only got 10 yards. Did you see that as a fluke? Did you see it as the Steelers defense just couldn't deal with a more explosive player in Walker? Break down what you saw there with the difference between how they performed against Walker versus Charbonnet.
Well, I do think explosive running backs have given them trouble. You talk about Hall and Walker, the same wide zone back type. I think that has been an issue for them. They've had trouble defending wide zone. And if you look at the rushing charts that have kind of gone against them, everything's going away from TJ Watt. They're not running towards TJ Watt at all. They're daring him to make plays on the backside, and he has. But if he over pursues, they're hitting that backside cutback lane or they're running front side. And the issue has really been the spine of the Steelers defense. Keanu Benton at nose tackle and the two linebackers, Patrick Queen and Peyton Wilson, have been pretty bad to start the year. And I think that's been a big thing. So I'm not sure if it was necessarily running back related, but I do think Walker's the more natural wide zone runner. I mean, listen, you want to talk about crazy just discrepancies. I mean, Zach Charbonnet had 15 rushes for 10 yards at a 0% success rate on runs. Kenneth Walker had a 69% success rate on runs. I mean, that's just crazy difference. I'm not sure I remember one being that crazy different. I will say I don't think it's running back related because Braylon Allen did have success against them in week one, so it wasn't like big power back doesn't work. So I don't think like Ramondre Stevenson, for example, in this matchup is just dead in the water. But I would utilize Travion Henderson and force the Steelers to showcase that they can stop those explosive backs. But the real issue for them was just they were lined up pretty wrong, I think, on three of the big runs. They slanted the wrong way on one. Queen and Thornhill were kind of getting into it, trying to discuss communication and had their backs turned to the snap while the ball got snapped on a 19-yard touchdown on 3rd and goal from the 19. I mean, 3rd and goal from the 19, and they scored a touchdown on that because there was miscommunication and they weren't aligned correctly. And then another one, they were lined up completely out of the gap. They had 4 defensive linemen to one side, and the gap on the left side was wide open, was not supposed to be that way. So alignment issues, communication, the Steelers can do that. I think they'll be a lot better against the run, against the pass, things like that. They're still beatable, but yeah. So I do think the rushing defense is kind of struggling up the middle a little bit, but I also think they are just struggling to kind of get this communication stuff down on this defense. They're running a little bit of a different scheme. It's still the basic stuff, but more blitzes, more stunts, more twists, different things that they're adding in, I think, are adding some layers to this defense that aren't quite cleared out yet.
So I have a question about Aaron Rodgers, but first I just want to touch about one thing you just said. I think I know the answer, but I just want to clarify here. Are the Steelers' mistakes more like technical mistakes, I like to say, or like tactical? Like, are they more like you said, alignment issues, communication issues? Or is it more like skill-wise, like not finishing your blocks, like, missed tackles, that sort of thing? And if it's the first one, if it's the communication and the alignment issues and playbook issues, it's week 2. Like, you just had a whole summer, right, to get that stuff installed. It's not like you just brought in 30 players. Why do you think that is the case, especially with a coach like Mike Tomlin?
Yeah, I think it is more the communication alignment stuff. And this was an issue for them last year late, which was weird, right? It was like down the stretch in December, they couldn't line up correctly. They couldn't pass off a normal route concept. It was just busted coverages. And then they kind of changed the whole picture here. Minka Fitzpatrick gone. They bring in Jalen Ramsey. Darius Slay comes in. It's like high pedigree guys that have had success otherwhere, right? These guys have won Super Bowls. Both those corners have won Super Bowls. Juan Thornhill's won 2 of them. Chuck Clark's been around for a long time. And, Deshaun Elliott's hurt. And that's been something that the Steelers have kind of pointed to, is Deshaun Elliott was kind of their kind of communication hub in the back end. And the moment he went out, he got hurt in the second quarter of that Jets game. Things started to fall apart. And they've kind of trying to figure out what to do since then. So I think that's part of it. I think the injuries to him and Porter have kind of thrown things for a loop. But I don't think that can be just an excuse, right? I mean, the Seahawks are missing Devin Witherspoon and Nick Emanwari last week, and obviously they didn't bust every single coverage known to man. So it's a coaching thing at this point. I remember, today I was talking with Terrell Austin, the defensive coordinator for the Steelers. And if you watch the Jets and the Seahawks game, both of them scored touchdowns on just Yankee, right? On those 2 deep crossers. And people were like, did the Steelers not make any adjustments on the first crosser? Because the Seahawks came out on the first drive, scripted it, play action from the 21 and got a touchdown. And it was just basic stuff, right? There was cover 1, the free safety bit on the low one, they hit the upper cross. And kind of what Terrell Austin said is we installed that. The players just didn't execute it. So it's nonverbal communication, I think, is what's going to be really big for them. Is they'll communicate verbally, but how do they pick up on body language and nonverbal communication? I think that's been the issue for this team. So yeah, it's been all that stuff, man. Communication, alignment, getting calls in. Things have been a little bit all over the place. They still need to beat blocks a little better, I think. Keanu Benton, for example, has been really bad at nose tackle, and I actually expect probably less of him. Peyton Wilson's had a pretty rough start to the year. Again, I probably expect a little less of them. I think they're going to shuffle some personnel this week compared to what they've done the first 2. But communication's been the biggest issue for this team. They're killing themselves.
So the Jets had a different look than the Seahawks gave Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers was able to attack, like you said, more play action passes, right? More of those crossing routes in week 1. And then week 2, I think they showed a little more zone cover 2, which kind of takes away, that like those middle spots, I guess you should say, for that Rodgers offense. The Patriots played a lot of cover 2, and actually just zone coverage in general, because they're missing Christian Gonzalez. Now he might come back this week and they'll shift more to man. But if the Patriots continue to take away, Aaron Rodgers' bread and butter, I guess I'd say, what's their secondary? What can Aaron Rodgers go to next? Like, what's his next step?
Yeah, it was interesting last week. They got under center a lot against the Jets, and then last week they kind of went mostly gun. It was more Rodgers offense. They only had 5 play action attempts last week. It was 1-5 for 7 yards. Like, compared, they had 10 of those in week 1. There were 2 sacks, but he was 6 of 8 for 75 yards and 3 touchdowns. Just way different, right? Yeah. And obviously those are the man blitzes that Aaron Glenn runs. But when you look at what kind of Mike Vrabel runs, I think the one kind of commonality we've heard from the offense is we got to run the ball. Like, we got to run the ball and force them out of the 2 high looks. Like, the Steelers, I think, are going to try and run the ball. But I think the biggest thing is, Rodgers kind of has had 2 bread and butters. It's been the play action stuff, but the quick game is going to be the big thing. They'll get it out on screens. They'll get it out on quick slants. They'll get it out on, little crossers like mesh and things like that. The Patriots have to tackle. That's going to be the biggest thing. If this Patriots defense, and they've struggled doing it, doesn't tackle Metcalf, doesn't tackle Smith, doesn't tackle Warren, that is going to be an issue. And it was an issue for the Seahawks too. The Steelers probably should have scored more points. Warren was able to get loose a few times. They didn't let Metcalf get loose, but they did let Jalen Warren just kill them in the flat. That was kind of the Steelers' go-to is, we'll just dump it off on the flat to this guy, and he gets 9-10 yards. And that was the big issue for them. And so the Seahawks, kind of learned from it as they were going on and kind of hawking the flats more. But then the Steelers started hitting them over the middle of the field more, involving the tight ends. So they have some changeups they have in their bucket. And the quick game is going to be a big thing. But if the Patriots let the Steelers run the football, I think that's going to be an issue for them, because then you're going to start to see the play action game, I think, start to work. And I'm not just talking, the bootlegs and the 3-level concepts. I'm talking, under center, legitimate Shanahan level LaFleur stuff that Arthur Smith has that they haven't really run a ton of yet. So that'll be big. But the quick game is going to be the conduit for the Steelers offense through the air. And they're going to force this Patriots team to tackle and prove that they can do that because the Steelers have been so productive after the catch to start the season.
Yeah, now moving forward a little bit, man, these injuries, I mean, we can talk about the Patriots injuries first because that'll be pretty quick. Everybody participated today in practice. Keon White has not been practicing recently due to an illness. He was back to a full participant today. Christian Gonzalez hadn't been practicing since late July, returned to practice yesterday, was also out there today. Both days, I believe he was a limited participant. The Patriots are about as healthy as you can get. The Steelers, on the other hand, not so much. Joey Porter Jr., Deshaun Elliott, Alex Highsmith, plus Max, is it Sharping?
Yeah.
Tearing his ACL, depth offensive lineman, but still a good offensive lineman. Those are players that are going to hurt to lose. All of them did not practice today. How are you expecting the Steelers to bounce back from all of those injuries, especially on the defensive side of the ball where they're going to need all the help they can get?
Yeah, that's just kind of been the commonality. It's not even factoring in the guys that have gone on IR recently. Derek Harmon is trying to come back this week from his MCL sprain. He's been limited the last 2 days. We'll see if he plays. They've said even if he does play, he'll be on a snap count. So it's not going to be like something crazy where he's going to play like 40 snaps. Isaiah Loudermilk, who has been starting in Harmon's place, is on IR now with a high ankle sprain. So if Harmon can't play, they're on their third string guy there. That would be something to think about. Malik Harrison, who's kind of their run-stuffing, downhill thumper linebacker, on IR with an MCL sprain. They've lost some guys. Highsmith is going to be out for a good while. Elliott's going to probably miss his second straight game, and Porter's probably going to miss his second straight game. And, when I talk about communication, alignment issues, I think these injuries at least factor into it some. It's not everything. It's not an excuse, but that's what's going to happen. So I'll just kind of go, through them and who their replacements will be. If they play with Elliott out, I think Clark will start, but I think this is going to be the week Jabril Peppers finally plays more defensively. He didn't play a single snap on defense last week, but the Steelers have been telling us this week it's going to be time. Jabril Peppers is going to play. So
that's scary.
We'll see. We'll see how Peppers works into this. I don't know how they're going to utilize him, but they're pretty excited to utilize him just for communication purposes alone. I think just because he's so vocal. At corner, they will utilize Brandon Echols. You guys are familiar with Brandon Echols. He's a former Jets guy. Steelers really liked him. He'll play outside, and they've used Ramsey a lot in the nickel and base. They'll have Ramsey outside as well. So we'll kind of see where that goes and how they're going to match. I don't think anyone's going to shadow anybody. I wouldn't be surprised if they try to match size for size and try to go Ramsey on Booty a good bit. I wouldn't be surprised if they do that. But Echols will be the replacement there. And an outside linebacker, they still have a really good player there, Nick Herbig, who has been a very proven, productive pass rusher. And then the third edge rusher is going to be Jack Sawyer, who had a really good week last week out of Ohio State. He had his first career sack. He made a few plays in the run game. Some good flashes from him. So that'll be their kind of depth chart. Then they brought DeMarvin Leal up, who's a kind of bigger player. He's kind of a big end that can be a run defense boost for them. So that'll be their edge rusher depth chart. And then on the interior, let's say Harmon can't play. I think we're going to see more Y.A. Black, who is their rookie out of Iowa, their other rookie. He's a big player. I also think we're probably going to see more Daniel Ekuale in that role. So a lot of different shuffling for this team. We'll kind of see where things go. But they feel comfortable in their depth talent-wise. It's going to be how do they meld it together and can they communicate?
Now, a matchup I want to kind of talk about here is the Steelers offensive line versus the Patriots pass rush. The Patriots are leading the NFL, small sample size, 2 weeks, but in sacks, right? And 20% of Aaron Rodgers' dropbacks, he's outside the pocket. And that left side of the line has allowed a lot of pressure on Aaron Rodgers. And he's kind of just getting uncomfortable in the pocket, whether that's throwaways, moving out of the pocket, whatever. How are the Steelers offensive line going to change what they do to have success against a pass rush, which the Patriots have been having a lot of success this season.
Yeah, I mean, last week they didn't do anything, and they played a pretty good line in the Seahawks. Like, they played two very good lines to start. The Jets and the Seahawks both have very good lines, deep lines, very similar to the Patriots, right? Good deep lines. You look at Barmore to Milton to White to Landry to Chason, like it's a deep group, and the Steelers have kind of been like not keeping guys in, but I wonder if we see more Darnell Washington kind of helping Broderick Jones. Broderick Jones has been the weak point. He has not developed like they would have wanted. He's been a rough player in pass pro. He allowed 3 sacks to Will McDonald in week 1. I mean, Will McDonald broke the game on that matchup. The Steelers were just lucky enough they overcame the negative plays, to be quite honest with you. So I think that's something to think about. Broderick Jones is kind of interesting too, in that he loses slow enough to where Rodgers can kind of escape out the right side, and McCormick and Fautanu have been good enough. Fautanu was not great last week, but was really good against Jermaine Johnson in week 1. This will be his 4th NFL start, so we'll see. The Steelers' interior has been pretty good. McCormick, Frazier, Sayamalo, they're a veteran-laden group, and they've been fine. Sayamalo will have 1 or 2 reps every game where he just gets whooped. But outside of that, he's been pretty good. So I am concerned about their ability to pick up stunts. I think that's been one thing, is they've allowed some quick pressure off stunts. You saw guys like Byron Murphy get free off stunts just on 4-man rushes. It's not like even 5-man, 6-man. And we know that the Patriots do a lot of 5, 6-man stuff in terms of their blitz packages. So that's something I think to think about as well. But Broderick Jones, man, whoever is over that left tackle is going to be the big one. And I do wonder if the Steelers maybe keep in a tight end or keep in a running back on some of these reps, especially if they want to attack down the football field, just to kind of give themselves an extra second so Rodgers doesn't get pelted. Because Rodgers still has a tendency where he wants to get out of the pocket, but he doesn't have the quick twitch anymore to kind of escape it and try and run. So we'll kind of see how that goes. But I do think that the Steelers would like to protect Broderick Jones a little more. So I'll say that.
So I have a quick question. Correct me if I'm wrong. Calvin Anderson, the former Patriots, is he next to go after Broderick Jones?
Yeah, he's good to go. So he would be the top guy if they wanted to bench him. I don't think they're close to that.
Okay.
But yeah, if Broderick or Fautanu got hurt, Calvin Anderson would be the top guy off the bench.
I know you were just talking about that interior offensive line and how it's looked pretty solid overall. Do you think that that's like, the interior offensive line, it's good enough to be, it's like average, or do you think they'll be able to really like hold their own against the Patriots defensive line of Milton Williams and Christian Barmore?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's good enough. It's solid. I don't think it's elite, though. And I think, you look at how Milton's played. I mean, go to the week 1 tape. Quinnen Williams just wrecked shop. And it wasn't really any of the Steelers' linemen's fault. He took over the game. I like Milton. I'm not sure I would say he's on the level of Quinnen, but he ain't far. I think that type of player – it could give the Steelers trouble. They did hold Leonard Williams in. Byron Murphy got free off stunts off the edge more than he did beating guys on the interior last week. I do think Frazier is a really good center. Like, if there was one guy on this interior I would not want to attack, it would not be Zach Frazier. I think he's probably their best lineman. I think McCormick has taken a leap in his consistency this year. He was a little up and down last year, but this year has played really well. I would probably go after Sayamalo. He's a little older. He doesn't move like he quite used to. And again, he just kind of has like every now and then a rep where he just gets blasted. So it's a fine group. I think it's a solid group. It's not an elite group. It's not one of the top groups in the NFL. I think they can hold their own against a lot of teams. But there's definitely, I think, opportunities to make plays if you have a talented group like the Patriots do.
All right, and now moving forward a little bit, once again, we're going to be talking about one matchup to look for. So a Patriot versus Steeler on each side of the ball. Do you want to start us off there?
Yeah, sure. And you kind of know when you look at, I guess when you look at defense, I think the Steelers have a few players that I would circle in this game that I think could be weapons. I think Herbig is going to be a big one because if you don't have, if you don't, Will Campbell, I think has a lot of good things going for him, but there are few players as explosive as Nick Herbig. It just is what it is. He's so explosive. He's so bendy. He's very Will McDonald-ish, Bryce Huff, Hassan Reddick, something of that archetype. So that's kind of a guy that I think is a big one to watch. When I also kind of looked at the other kind of matchups I was looking at, I think the Steelers' scheme versus the Patriots' ability to attack the middle of the field, because matchups for the Steelers' defense kind of don't matter until they fix the schematic issues. Like, you don't really match up Hunt. You kind of attack their scheme because they played a lot of static cover 1, static cover 3. They don't really rotate. They don't disguise. Just look at the film. Smith and Jigba, Kupp, Horton, they all ate in the middle of the field just on high-low concepts. So I think kind of the ability for Mike Tomlin and Terrell Austin to scheme something up so Josh McDaniels can't just dice them up. And, I mean, we've seen Josh McDaniels dice them up multiple times. He kind of owns this defense, to be quite honest with you. The Steelers are going to heat you up, so the Patriots O-line needs to be ready. Because the Steelers are blitzing, I think, 42.1% of the time. Depending on the site you use, they're 4th or 2nd in the league in blitz rate, but either way, they're top 5 in blitz rate. They are sending the heat. They'll send 6-man, 7-man fronts. And I think this week they've kind of talked about some coverage adjustments because I don't think the coverage has matched the front on a lot of those. So sometimes they're getting home, sometimes they're allowing explosives. But if they can play tighter coverage and stop blowing coverages on the back end of these blitzes, they've been really close to getting home and getting some sacks. Steelers are up there in pressure rate. I'm not sure exactly where they are, but they're, I think, top 5 in pressure rate. At least they were coming out of that game, I believe. So that's something to watch. I think a lot of the matchups are schematic. The player to watch, in my opinion, on the Patriots is Kayshon Boutte. I just think I look at what he and Drake may have. I love it. I love the chemistry. He's kind of that big size guy that they have. And the Steelers, I think, will probably match that a lot with Ramsey. But if he gets on Slay or Eccles, I think that could be cool jump ball territory to get explosive down the football field.
So before I go into a player versus player matchup, I'm going to say kind of what you started with. I'm really looking forward to seeing the Steelers linebackers, in particular Patrick Queen, Jack Sawyer, against the Patriots running backs. The Steelers have recorded league high 18.2% missed tackle rate through the first 2 weeks of the season. That's per NFL Gen. And Ramondre, Travion Henderson, even Antonio Gibson, can't forget him. He just had the kickoff last week. They do a good job of forcing missed tackles. So definitely going to see how those Steelers linebackers react in the open field when Henderson or Stevenson has the ball. That's kind of the matchup I'm looking forward to. But I'm also circling Will Campbell, right? He has been very good in the last 2 weeks. I don't want to say like he's historic, unbelievable, but he has been above average. Of course, he was a first-round draft pick of picking up plays. And him and Jared Wilson, the former UGA center, is at the left guard for the Patriots. And that's a rookie duo there that's actually been protecting Drake May's blind side really, really well. Something that no one really was expecting to happen so quick. So that is definitely a matchup that I'm watching for too. So you got the linebackers and the running backs, and then how that left side of the line holds up.
Yeah, and I'm going to kind of flip that, actually. I'm going to go Steelers running backs, more specifically Jaylen Warren, versus Patriots linebackers, more specifically Robert Spillane, also Christian Ellis. Kind of for the same reasons Ben just said, but again, flipping it. Robert Spillane, Christian Ellis, they haven't been able to tackle. I'm just going to put it bluntly. They have not been able to tackle. And Nick, that was one of the first things you said today, was if the Patriots cannot tackle Jaylen Warren or DK Metcalf or whatever other weapons that Steelers offense is going to be throwing out onto the field, it's going to be a tough game. And I think that all starts with that matchup of Spillane Warren or Ellis Warren. So they need to desperately fix how they've been playing and how they've been tackling, because it has been so difficult to watch. I really cannot express it enough. I don't know if this stat still holds true. I know at some point last week, Ellis and Spillane were, I believe, leading the league in missed tackle percentage or missed tackles counting, not percentage. One of the two, maybe both. Either way, not good. You can't have that. And Jalen Warren can make you pay if you do that. So that is the matchup I'm looking for. And that's the matchup that I think is going to potentially decide this game. Can the Patriots tackle? And if they can't, how are they going to win? I don't think they would.
So really quick, the last thing.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
So I was just going to say, last thing we'll do real quick is a little score prediction for each of us. So I will start off. I think it's going to be very, very similar to the Thursday night football game that happened in 2023. Again, different players, but I'm going to go with a 20-17 Patriots victory. I think they win back-to-back games at home for the first time since 2020. Cannot believe I just said that. So I think they start the season 2-1, but again, I think I see this being really, really close.
Nick, you got it.
All right. Yeah, I'll go. I mean, listen, I think the Steelers, to put it bluntly, when I kind of walk into the facility, are pissed off. I think there's a kind of focus that they have. I think the defense is going to play better. I think they'll be a little bit tighter than they have been. And I'll take the Steelers here in a close one. I don't think it's going to be anything crazy, but I think it'll be something like 23-20, 24-21 Steelers, somewhere around that. I'm also going to bank on the fact that I think the Steelers, anytime they cross the 50, are going to be able to score points because Chris Boswell has just been so good the past year. So that's another thing on the margins is the Steelers have a great kicker. And so while their margins are razor thin, he does allow them a little bit of room when they stall out, at the 40-yard line. They can still nail a 59-yarder pretty consistently.
Yeah, I'm going to go similar. Ben took the prediction I was going to go with, actually, so I had to last-second pivot. I'll go 23-19 Patriots if my math is correct there. Yeah, that's a lot of field goals for Chris Boswell, and that's what I want. That's what I'd expect. Because, like you said, that dude can kick. I mean, just putting it simply, he is probably the best kicker in the NFL, if not top 2 behind maybe Brandon Aubrey. He's ridiculous. I mean, basically the perfect kicker. So this Patriots defense has shown a little bit of bend but don't break. And Chris Boswell will put points on the board if you bend but don't break. He's not someone who's going to miss it from 45 or even really miss it from 55, 60. I mean, he's pretty automatic. So, again, I'll go 23-19 Patriots. But with that, Nick, thank you so much for coming on to the show, taking time out of your Thursday evening to talk ball with us. Again, we really appreciate it. I know I gave you the opportunity to do this at the beginning of the show, but if you'd like to again, go ahead and plug where you write, where you tweet, everything.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at FaraboughFB. Make sure to read the stuff at PennLive.com/Steelers and check out the YouTube channel, The Steelers Blitz on Penn Live.
Awesome. Nick, Ben, hope you guys have a great night. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We'll see you guys next week.